Imagine stepping into a vast hall, carved thousands of years ago, where every wall tells a story. The air feels heavy, filled with dust from centuries gone by. Torches flicker, shadows dance on painted figures of gods, pharaohs, and creatures half human, half animal. Welcome to the world of ancient Egyptian art, a place where nothing was random, where every line and every symbol carried a meaning deeper than most of us realize today. Egyptian art has fascinated travelers, historians, and dreamers for centuries. But here is the thing, many people look at the statues, the murals, the hieroglyphs, and think they are simply decorative. In reality, these works of art were not created just to look beautiful. They were messages, spiritual codes, political propaganda, and eternal prayers carved into stone. Today, we are going to reveal some of the secrets hidden inside these masterpieces. Let's start with one of the most iconic images, the great statues of the pharaohs. If you stand before the colossal seated figure of Ramses II at Abu Simbel, you notice something subtle but powerful. The statue is not just a portrait, it is a statement. Ramses' head is slightly larger in proportion to his body. His eyes gaze forward, unblinking, eternal. Why? Because size and scale in Egyptian art were not about realism. They were about status. Pharaohs, gods, and sacred beings were shown as larger than life to remind everyone that these figures stood above the ordinary. Now imagine stepping inside a tomb in the Valley of the Kings, Luxor. You descend a corridor covered in bright colors, still glowing after more than 3,000 years. On the walls, rows of hieroglyphs and paintings of deities lead you deeper into the afterlife. But here is the secret, these are not random decorations. They are maps, guides for the soul of the deceased, carefully painted to ensure safe passage through the dangerous underworld. The Book of the Dead, the Amjuat, and other sacred texts were illustrated here, telling the soul, this is where you will face serpents of fire, this is where you must speak the right words to pass a guardian, this is where you will sail with the sun god Ra. One of the most fascinating aspects of Egyptian art is how animals were used. Cats, jackals, falcons, crocodiles, each carried a deeper meaning. The falcon symbolized the god Horus, the divine protector of the pharaoh. That is why falcons spread their wings above kings in carvings and jewelry. The jackal, connected with Anubis, the god of mummification, appears near tomb entrances, standing guard. These were not just charming depictions of animals. They were living symbols of divine powers, a way for Egyptians to invite protection, strength, and balance into their lives. And then there are the colors. Egyptian art is filled with vibrant reds, golds, blues, and greens. Each color carried a specific meaning. Blue represented the Nile, the sky, and creation. Green meant fertility, new life, regeneration. Red symbolized energy, but also chaos and danger. Yellow was eternal, the color of the sun and the flesh of the gods. Black symbolized rebirth, as it was the color of the rich soil after the Nile's flood. Nothing was accidental. Even the choice of color in a painting of a god could shift the entire message. What about the famous Egyptian profile faces? You have seen them, the classic style, head and legs shown from the side, torso facing forward, eye looking straight at you. It almost feels flat, unnatural. But the answer is genius. Egyptian art was not about realism. It was about essence. Artists wanted to show the most complete, eternal version of a person. The side profile of the face was the clearest way to show the nose and mouth, while the frontal eye was the most powerful symbol of identity. By combining angles, they were not being primitive. They were being timeless. Consider the hidden messages. In the tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered by Howard Carter in 1922, the walls are covered with golden scenes. One panel shows Tutankhamun embraced by Osiris, god of the underworld. But if you look closely, you notice Tut's face seems slightly different from other images of him. Some scholars suggest that parts of the artwork were altered, possibly reused from an earlier tomb. Why? Because Tutankhamun died young, and his burial had to be prepared in a hurry. Art here was not just decoration. It was politics, strategy, and a rushed attempt to secure a king's eternity. Another powerful example is the bust of Nefertiti, now in Berlin. This sculpture is one of the most famous images of beauty in the world. But it is more than that. Look at the symmetry, the balance, the perfection of the lines. Nefertiti's image was designed not just to capture her likeness, but to project an ideal of harmony, of power, of divine femininity. Her husband, Akhenaten, broke all the rules of Egyptian religion, introducing the worship of one god, Aten. Their art followed this revolution. Suddenly, we see scenes of the royal family playing with their children, sun rays ending in little hands touching their faces. This was radical, emotional, almost intimate, unlike anything before or after. Egyptian art was never static. It could shift dramatically depending on the power of the ruler. And of course, the pyramids. While they are primarily architectural wonders, the decoration inside them was just as significant. In the pyramid texts, some of the oldest religious writings in the world, hieroglyphs carved deep into stone tell us about the pharaoh's journey to the stars. Imagine lying in the dark, inside those stone chambers, reading lines that say, "The king flies as a falcon to the sky, to join the imperishable stars." These were not poems. They were cosmic passports, inscriptions to guarantee the pharaoh's transformation into a god among the heavens. What is remarkable is how consistent Egyptian art remained over thousands of years. From the Old Kingdom to the Ptolemaic era, the same styles, proportions, and symbols appear again and again. This was not because the Egyptians lacked creativity. It was because art was sacred. It was not about expressing personal style, but about maintaining cosmic order, what they called ma'at. Every line, every statue, every painting was a ritual act to keep the universe in balance. Here is a secret most people do not know. Many statues we see today in museums look cold and plain because the paint has faded away. But originally, these statues were bursting with color. The Sphinx, the statues of gods, even hieroglyphs on temple walls were once painted with dazzling pigments. Imagine walking through Karnak or Luxor temple in its prime, columns painted with bright blues and yellows, ceilings covered in stars, gods glowing in gold. The ancient world was not monochrome. It was alive with color. And what about the hidden meanings in jewelry? Amulets shaped like scarabs, ankhs, and the Eye of Horus were not just fashion. They were protective charms. A scarab beetle represented the sun god Khepri, rolling the sun across the sky. The ankh symbolized life itself, eternal and divine. The Eye of Horus offered protection against evil and misfortune. When an Egyptian wore these, they were not accessorizing. They were carrying powerful magic on their bodies. Even architecture itself was art. Temples were not just places of worship. They were carefully designed to reflect the cosmos. The Great Temple of Karnak, for example, was aligned with the rising sun during the winter solstice. As light streamed into the central sanctuary, it was not just beautiful, it was a cosmic event, art in harmony with the universe. These alignments, these plays of light and shadow, were all part of the artistic language of Egypt. Perhaps the most fascinating part of Egyptian art is that it was never meant just for the living. Much of it was hidden inside tombs, deep underground, never meant to be seen by human eyes again. Imagine that. Artists spent years painting walls, carving hieroglyphs, decorating coffins, knowing that once sealed, no one would look at them again, except the gods. The art was not for us. It was for eternity. So the next time you stand before an Egyptian artifact, whether it is a colossal statue at Luxor, a painted coffin in the Cairo Museum, or a fragment of papyrus in a display case, remember, you are not just looking at art. You are looking at a message across time. A pharaoh declaring his power. A family pleading for eternal life. A priest ensuring cosmic order. A people who believed that through image and symbol, they could touch the divine. Egyptian art is not silent. It speaks. And when you learn to listen, it reveals secrets that have been waiting for thousands of years.